Rotarian Rocky Davis to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Jay, for that rousing introduction to me.
I like you both that.
Myself, my name is Rocky Davis. It's my privilege today to introduce to you our state CFO, Chief Financial Officer. He's an old family friend. Jimmy and his family and my family go way back. You can read Jimmy's accomplishments in your Rotary book, so I won't bore you with that. Let me tell you a couple of personal things about Jimmy, if you will. Says that he and wife Katie have two sons, Jimmy Theo III and John Michael. Yes, is that right? I've been around Jimmy when he's around his kids. It's almost like, well, you don't want to mess with his kids. His kids are pretty tight. You can just see it. It's almost like a grandchild. He and Katie enjoy their family very much, and he is back in Tallahassee with them as much as he can be. Jimmy, as you know, let me tell you a little Tallahassee background about Jimmy. Jimmy's daddy and his uncle, Johnny and Jimmy, graduated from Leo High School. Back in the 40s, I guess. So they have actually they sort of started their business here before moving to Panama City. Jimmy's grandparents and great-grandparents came over from Dallas, where John wrote Revelations, are buried at Oakland Cemetery just down Brevard Street here, just a few blocks from where we stand. So Jimmy is connected to Tallahassee in a big way in his family. A wonderful family. I talked to his uncle a couple of times a couple of weeks ago. Jimmy, as you know, his family operate Captain Anderson's restaurant in Panama City Beach. When Jimmy first got appointed, the Governor Scott appointed him CFO at Jeff Atwater's place. I texted him and told him I was really proud of him. But let me ask you something important. Who's my hope to get me in the restaurant? If you think I'm kidding, you're wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm not alone. After he graduated from Florida State, Governor Child appointed him to the Election Division. Then Governor Bush reappointed him. Governor Scott appointed him to the Public Service Commission, Constitution Revision Commission, and then CFO. So I'm in line with 3 former governors who sucked up so they could get a seat in the restaurant. I'm in good company, don't forget that. Right? It is my great pleasure to introduce my good friend Jimmy Patronis.
Thank you, Rocky. And it is the God's honest truth. That, I mean, in the same text, he didn't even pause. You know, congratulations, and now who I'm contacting the table at Captain Anderson. And that was actually a very common text I got after the appointment. And thank you for that introduction. I'm very fortunate. If you're driving down North Monroe, and some of y'all remember where Kentucky Fried Chicken was, and then turned to Cafe de Lorenzo. Everybody know what I'm talking about? So then kind of catty-corner across the street from it, there's a little brick house nail shop called Arden's. That's my daddy's birthday. So my great-grandfather came over. He had 3 brothers. 2 of them settled in Quincy, and the 2 other brothers settled in Lima, Peru. And I think they may have been on the run from somebody. Because as a matter of fact, I took my Uncle Johnny. We went down in 2007 down to Peru to go meet the cousins. He had been down there in '77, so we went in 2007. My wife and I went because I thought it was important to connect with some relatives I've never had a chance to meet, and then have Uncle Johnny be the connector, you know. And they tweaked their last name. It wasn't Patronis anymore. It was another variation. And anyhow, this has just been such an amazing part of the world to grow up in. But as Governor Scott, then I was term limited out of the Courthouse of Representatives. I was going home. My wife and we had two little boys, Johnny and Dio. Johnny right now is over at the Challenger Learning Center. I brought him up here this week with me, and he's doing their science camp this week. And when Governor Scott had called to ask me to take this job, I had first asked my wife if it was okay for me to do it, and she agreed. But second was to make the commitment that I was to make sure my boys got the experience of a lifetime. So as we have been an active part of the state's governance and trying to do right by everyone in the room, I wanted to make sure that my boys get to see firsthand and experience everything that daddy experiences. And the other day, my 8-year-old, I'm on my phone reading news clips, and he looks over my shoulder, and he notices the stories about me. God's truth. He says, "Daddy's the person that wrote that story, Republican or Democrat?" So, as they don't miss much, they do often become an active part of how I think, because I know I'm going to leave this state in a better position after I'm done with its service. But again, thank y'all for allowing me to join here today. And I want to give you a little bit of reflection on how fantastic the state's economy is. So right now, this is the first time in the history of the state of Florida that all 3 major credit rating agencies have given us a AAA bond rating. And when I try to do that, I don't use terms like bond as much as I use mortgage. Of course, everybody understands mortgage, they understand loans. So if I were to try to compare us to that type of scenario, that's like having a really good FICO credit score. And this is the first time in the history of the state is all 3 major credit agencies have given us a AAA. Now, how did we get there? So let me reflect a little bit on that. We go back to 2006, and for all of you there that were attuned to the economy in 2006, you had a state of Florida. It was the middle. We had all those back-to-back hurricanes. Okay, so all those billions of dollars in claims that were paid out during that period of time, the state gets its commission on every one of those dollars and those transactions. As the new clothes, the new TVs, the new roofs, all the new construction. So we saw this rush of revenue into the state's coffers. And this is before I served in the process. And then, as you had that massive rebuilding with private dollars coming in to assist the rebuild, then on top of that, you had the largest construction boom in the history of the state of Florida. So on top of that, you have all those dollars compounding effect. It's all of the overbuilding that took place. And a lot of speculative investment. The state's budget in 2006 was $70 billion, give or take a nickel, with $6.5 billion in reserves. Okay? Amazing time. The legislature at that time, in that last 2006 legislative session, my first session was 2007. In 2006, the legislature actually contemplated, because there was so much in reserves, and the state's economy had so much there, and it was an election year, they had contemplated sending every single homesteaded property owner in the state a $50 check. When it turns out that they started digging down into what it would cost in hard costs, postage, due diligence, it only been worth about $35. So they decided against it, decided to just put the money in reserves. Thank God they did. I'll tell you how bad things got. In 2006, there was over 20,000 building permits issued, in addition to have that type of numbers in reserve. Fast forward to 2010, 2009-2010. The state still was maintaining a $70 billion budget, I think less about maybe $500 million. Reserves were down to $900 million. So, and also that 2010 legislative session, there was an increase on cigarette taxes. The legislature, we were looking for any way to try to maintain the standard level of service to healthcare, infrastructure, education, but it was at the cost of a lot of, other expenses as in the state. Building permits went from 20,000 in 2006 to 2010, we were down to 2,000 building permits issued statewide. So the construction industry had come to a grinding halt. So trying to build back out of that has been where we've been. And so now we're sitting in a position where the state's got the largest budget in the history of the state. It was about $90 billion this year. And we still were north of $3.5 billion in reserves. But here's one thing I'd like to brag about Governor Scott about. So Governor Scott comes on unorthodox, not necessarily part of the standard operating procedure of government of Florida, but he comes on in 2010, and 2011 was his first session, and the state was sitting about $25 billion, no, a little north of that. It was about $30 billion in debt. He declared war on state debt. So as we were trying to, dig ourselves out of the recession and we're into the challenges financially, he aggressively paid down state debt. So over his 8 years of service, $10 billion of state debt was paid down here in Florida. What's important to note is we all kind of look at each other. So big deal, we pay down state debt. Don't we always pay down state debt? That is not the case. Even in good times, the state was still adding about $1 billion worth of more loans, more mortgages, more bonding on the books. So Governor Scott, as he paid down $10 billion of state debt, that's the first governor to pay down a single nickel of state debt since Bob Martinez was governor. So we changed course in how the state borrowed money. We did some aggressive tax cuts, and now we're in a position right now, and it's horrible to say this, but with Hurricane Michael, and so many of y'all in this room were affected by it one way or another, but Hurricane Michael, Wall Street says it'll actually be a net positive impact to the state's economy. And part of that is because we're just in a good financial position where we're not borrowing money to rehabilitate the devastation that took place. So that is, and you add on to that, I'm on the job now about 2 years now, but back up, as I'm traveling the state, and part of my job is also, as Chief Financial Officer, understanding all the different instruments that come underneath my jurisdiction. So I'm up in New York, I'm meeting with Wall Street, I'm meeting with all those players there, and the one thing that I'm picking up from every one of my conversations is this organic movement of individuals that are going from high tax states to low tax states. And it's an aggressive transition that's taking place. And I remember calling Governor Scott then at the time and I said, God, we got to do something about this. This is all these people are coming, they're empty nesters. So they're not putting kids in our school system. I said, they're bringing their disposable income from the retirement that's taking place. And if they're empty nesters coming out, they're probably not going to be incarcerated in our jails. I said, we've got to create as much of a welcome as we can for folks to come down and drive down to live in Florida. And he cuts me off and said, Jimmy, it's already happened organically. Because of the measures that we made, because of the federal tax package that was passed, there's this movement taking place. And, it has brought droves of families to the state that have, again, they're not taking as much advantage of our services, but they're paying for every bit of property taxes everyone in this room is paying for. They're buying the same groceries that all of us are paying for, so the sales tax revenues there. So all that's part of this movement that we've had. But as all that success is happening financially in the state, here's what is a problem. We launched an initiative a few months ago called Fraud Free Florida. And as many of you have seen unknown caller on your phone, where you've gotten phone calls from individuals that are trying to sell you knee braces or pain ointments or any other things. These new forms of scams that have taken place, because look, there is a lot of new individuals in the state. The economy is doing well. And as it is what it is. There's people trying to take advantage of you. So we want to bring awareness to that. And, we've kind of declared war a little bit on the cellular companies because we feel like, what they're allowing to take place and allowing these spam callers to be able to access your number in order to drive these solicitations in place are just unethical and wrong. But the cellular companies, every single one of you, if you've got a cellular service with either T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. There's a free app. Every single one of them offer it. Now they'll try to sell you a premium app. I wouldn't necessarily feel like you have to do that. But make sure you download that app. It basically creates a database of calls that you should answer. So as we are trying to raise the awareness that people are taking advantage of it, it leads to Florida being #1 in the nation for fraud and #4 for identity theft. And that's just unacceptable to me, that's alarming. So our office, I've challenged my team, I said, I need to create an environment next year where we have the strongest identity theft laws in the nation. As we are allowing these bad actors to take advantage of you, it hurts our economy, it hurts the brand we have here in Florida. So again, check out freeflorida.com. We put the latest alerts are on there, but it's also a place where the clearinghouse of those fraudulent incidents and crimes can be shared with local law enforcement agencies, including our investigators. As we're also entering into midway of the hurricane season right now, and who was touched by Hurricane Michael? Whether you had a house, yeah, so I mean, half of it. 146,000 insurance claims were attributed to Hurricane Michael. In just insurance claim value, $6.6 billion in damages took place that will probably be ultimately paid for by an insurance policy. So there's still about 21,000 claims that have not been dealt with out of that 146,000. So we beat up on the insurance companies. We've done a series of insurance villages. And we've told the insurance companies, as the fraud was rampant in Northwest Florida from unscrupulous individuals that have come from other parts of the state or outside of the state, and hard selling you to sign up with an assignment of benefits, or sign up with a PA, or sign up with somebody else that is going to ultimately get between you and your claims process. And I remind people, so when you bought your insurance policy, there was an agent who sold it to you, and that agent collects a commission. Don't pay the commission twice. You know, there's a pathway to this, and you know, our office did a lot of facilitating at no cost to you through the claims process. And I remind people, it's always fine to go hire a PA or hire an attorney. Those are legal professions. That's fine. Just use us first. Let us try to see if we can get you the answers and resolve that you need. But what has happened is the claims that we have now, the 21,000, they're the more complicated ones. They're the ones with the finger points taking place. But it still just gives me no pause to continue to beat up on the carriers saying just do your job. Answer the phone calls, put your A team on the other end of the line when the calls are coming through. And you know, unfortunately, there's Mr. Dracos, who I've known. He used to be a bartender at my dad's restaurant when I was a kid, and he's back working at the restaurant as a host, and he's 81 years old. And Mr. Dracos is having trouble with his claim, so my office has been working with him. And you know, perfect example is 81-year-old Mr. George Dracos. He has talked to his insurance carrier in October of 2018, and he has not talked to him again since. So my office is going to go, and we're going to walk him through the process, because it can be overwhelming and really just hard to deal with the destruction. To kind of tell you how bad the mental health has been, in Bay County alone, 23, it was 23, now it's closer to 39% of student enrollment is down. Families have moved away. The last month of school, we had 5 attempted suicides. The challenges that these young people are dealing with because of the uncertainty, because school was the last stabilizing element they had to their daily routine, has made the recovery a challenge. But the crazy thing is that I was telling Rocky earlier, it's the amount of visitors that are coming to Northwest Florida to vacation. It's off the charts. You know, thank goodness that they're coming back and visiting the way they are and enjoying the destination as much as they are, which will at least help in keep our minds distracted on the destruction, but help keep cash flow in the community. I'm a little compromised when it comes to Hurricane Michael, just because it was my home. And you know, you're not supposed to see the hospital that your kids were born in destroyed. You're not supposed to see the hospital that I was born in go from 325 beds to 75 beds. And it's been a little tough trying to look at what should be part of a federal solution. And you just can't sit there on your hands and expect everything just to happen because it's supposed to happen. So I've been very fortunate. Y'all had Nikki Freed here a little bit ago. Nikki and myself and Ashley Moody's grandparents actually live in Panama City. And we did a press conference together just to call out Washington in a polite way for their inability to react. It was the relief pact that ultimately passed the first week of July. It was the longest delay in the history of natural disasters for Washington to act. And the infighting that took place in Washington politically had made the solution-solving efforts that should be nonpartisan to be put on the back burner. So we were effective in bringing awareness, and ultimately a relief has taken place. But Tyndall Air Force Base is 11,000 employees there, and I'll share one quick story with you. I don't want to leave it open for questions. Tyndall Air Force Base, 800 homes on installation, and the way that the housing business model is, and now our installations around, most of the homes are privately owned. It's a public-private partnership with companies like Balfour Beatty. So what happens is government land, the capital improvement on that government land is privately owned. They'll come in, they will build it, they'll maintain it, they'll keep it up, but it has to be at a fair market price of what is available outside the base fence, okay? So I had done some work. I was very familiar with Balfour Beatty. So as Hurricane Michael hits, Tyndall Air Force Base was without a storm map. All 800 homes on Tyndall Air Force Base are inhabitable. And these homes, most of them were built less than 10 years ago, but just destroyed all the homes. So I'm literally coming into town and I'm thinking to myself, well, thank God all the homes on Tyndall Air Force Base are privately owned. That means that's private insurance that is going to pay for the rehabilitation of those homes. So it's almost like a no-brainer to rebuild the base, because now federal government Department of Defense is not going to have to build new homes. Private sector is going to do it because it was insured. So I thought, this is a great argument to explain to those decision makers in Washington why rebuilding Tyndall is a great idea. So a few months goes by, I'm on base touring with the colonel, and the colonel's pointing out to me that there's been nothing done to any of the houses, and I was just dumbfounded. How on earth? This is all privately insured. Why are we moving? Why are these houses being rebuilt? 11,000 people. And so, I start taking off the gloves and beating up Balfour Beatty. Why aren't you acting? Why aren't you rebuilding these homes? Balfour comes in and very forthright explains it to me that they've got insurance money that hasn't been released. They've got bonding now, has not kicked in yet, because there's not an understanding on whether or not the missions are going to be funded by Congress. If it's a business decision, do we, and every other installation and every other advocacy group all around the United States would love to carve up the missions that sit at Tyndall Air Force Base and ship them somewhere else. We've got, 20 different commands in Florida. Florida's not going to miss, losing a handful more of them. So, but the narrative out there that I thought was being missed was that the homes were privately insured. So here comes President Trump, and President Trump rolls into town, and I've got I didn't know I was going to get a meet with him or not, but I've got this great photo on my phone. I've given my phone to somebody to take pictures, and I'm thinking, okay, this guy's a real estate developer. He understands insurance claims, and he probably understands, that whole cost of doing business at the time. So as the president walks up, I'm shaking his hand, and I don't know what possessed him, but he goes to me, he says, they were going to build Tyndall Air Force Base back unless I said something, and now I'm making them rebuild it. And I'm just like, thank you, that's so amazing, thank you for doing that. I just knew that this guy's probably got a personality that needed to be fed, and I wanted to make sure he knew that I was incredibly grateful for every thumb he's put on the scale. And so as President Trump is just pouring it on that he is single-handedly rebuilding that base, I then said, well, look, sir, I said, let me share with you. I said, what's so great about that is all the base housing would be built without any expense to the federal government. And he looks at me and goes, what are you talking about? Because I knew nobody had shared this with him. And I told him, I said, all that base housing is privately owned. It's privately insured. The federal government, Department of Defense, Congress, nobody has to appropriate for that. But I said, but it can't happen unless the base gets rebuilt. All right, well, then what's next? I said, respectfully, I appreciate, what you made put in motion, but I said, Congress has to act. Because here's what's happening. Those insurance companies, those bonding, they're not going to build a bunch of houses that nobody's going to live in. And you can't blame them in that. So, needless to say, it was pretty, awestruck for me and starstruck to be able to fly on the wall, to be able to explain to the President of the United States that there's free homes that come along once Congress acts. And so, gratefully, that the money that is now flowing, Congress passed the relief package. $1.7 billion in this last package to go to Tyndall Air Force Base. And the first 38 homes, which will be online come September. So, it's, I never dreamed that that type of destruction could be in the past with Mother Nature. But if you haven't driven through Mexico Beach, it's about the most depressing sight you've ever seen in life. But I'd encourage you to check out preparefl.com. That is our own hurricane preparedness website. It's got good checklists there. I had an individual I was talking to, I was in Sam's Club that they buying groceries on Saturday morning, and a friend of my dad's, and I'm talking to him, and I said, how's the storm treating you? I said, do you have insurance? I said, yeah. He said, my insurance carrier was great. They paid me full cash, no questions, and then ultimately he ended up selling his home site. Somebody that wanted to build on it, so he was very happy. But he says, what made the difference is what we've been preaching to people. He said, I don't know what possessed my wife a couple weeks earlier to take all the photos and videos of the house inside and out. And I tell you, it helps you make your argument to the carriers, because once destruction happens, it's hard to remember what you've lost. But if you've got that photo evidence, it makes the claims process so much more black and white. So if there's one thing I can stress to people, taking that, and and take the pictures and then email it to yourself. Put it in a virtual place, on the cloud, sitting in your inbox. But it's nice to have that somewhere else, so at the time if destruction does happen, you've got something to reflect on, because you're not going to remember everything you lost. There's no way possible. But it's awesome to be here with y'all. I told earlier last year, Miami-Jackson Hospital is one of the biggest hospitals in the United States. It's down in Miami. And Julie, coming from Panama City, I'm the CFO for the state. I pull up to Miami-Jackson Hospital, and the folks that are there, they double park in front of the biggest hospital in the state of Florida. And it just hit me that don't wait a little kid from Northwest Florida, whatever, have the ability to do that. And just the awesome responsibility that y'all have given me to serve, and I take it very seriously, because it's the opportunity of a lifetime. Granddaddy used to say it's always you can lose an eye because you got two of them, but never lose your name, because it's only what you get. So, and yeah, where everybody trusts in is buried too. So anyway, I'd love to answer any questions you got. Yes, sir.
My understanding is the pile of South Florida attorneys have gone into Mexico Beach, St. Joe. These folks that are a little bit.
He's going to use the microphone. Hang on.
Here you go. Yeah. Let's see. Hello. Okay. But there's a pile of South Florida attorneys that have come up and asked folks that own property in Mexico Beach, St. Joe Beach, Pettit Bay County to assign their claim to the law firm. And then those law firms are spreading the claim from, let's say, a $60,000 or $80,000 claim to a $180,000 claim that poor insurance companies are sitting there holding the back. What knowledge do you have of this behavior?
So the fraud that he's talking about is called the assignment of benefits process. So in the assignment of benefits process, literally, you're assigning your benefits away to somebody to represent you. Where it was typically handled in post-hurricane lightbulbs all over the state is a water mitigation company to come knock on your door. You're under duress, you're freaking out. They've got a trailer full of equipment, so you have this comfort that they know what they're doing. You sign this document immediately because you're trying to save. So you now just assign that claim over to this entity who you may have not met until that day. And they're probably a licensed Florida contractor, but that doesn't mean that they're above board. But what they're doing is legal. So now you've assigned this claim over to this individual. And a lot of times, they are not notifying your insurance carrier that now they own your claim. So now what happens is the mitigation company, then submits to your insurance company a $400,000 mitigation bill. I mean, it starts consuming your benefits. And then what will happen is, as you then are having this contractor represent you, this contractor now submits a bill to the insurance carrier for an enormous amount of money. And the insurance carrier says, well, I didn't know that Mr. Beavis' home was affected. Now, every house in the path of Hurricane Michael was affected, but this is just saying for indulgent purposes. I didn't know Mr. Beavis' house was affected. We're going to deny the claim. So this is the game that's played. The attorneys he's talking about, then the clock starts ticking. And what we've got is, it's not about paying the contractor, it's about paying the attorney's fees. And even if and now what's happened is not only is that contractor and his attorney suing the insurance company, Rocky's being named in the lawsuit also, and Rocky doesn't know this is going on. So what did we do this past legislative cycle? We actually passed an assignment benefits reform package, forcing transparency, forcing written estimates be in place, putting a fee schedule in place where if the insurance company is really not handling it properly, there's a schedule in place. So we did a number of tweaks, because you do have reputable contractors that need to be able to access a legal system. You have reputable policyholders who need to be able to have access to the legal system. But what you've got a business model that was exploited. And this is what's going to make your jaw drop. In 2006, there was 400 assignment of benefit related lawsuits in the state of Florida of that somewhat nature, because some of these assignment of benefits take place. When you go to the emergency room, the first thing that they have you sign is an assignment of benefits, so that the hospital can bill your health insurance carrier. Okay? Similar, but where it's got exploded. So 2006, 400 assignment of benefits related lawsuit claims in the state of Florida. This year, we're like 35,000. So it's become a business model. Now, where the lion's share that's taking place is with windshield repair. Oh, he's got it. You want this?
Thank you, Richard. Jimmy, as a spokesperson for the funeral industry, I want to tell you how much we appreciate you and Governor Scott bringing all those empty nesters to Florida.
I'm just curious, do they bury or do they cremate?
It doesn't matter.
Bodies alive.
We're going to get it one way or the other. But if you need any help, I need to know.
Yes, sir. What are the questions you got over here?
Oh, that's funny.
A report just came out yesterday stating that many Florida beaches are just unsafe to swim in. There's too much bacteria caused from excess poop. Additionally, we have red tides and harmful algal blooms all over the state. This is robbing Floridians of their chance to enjoy the great outdoors. It's also keeping tourists away. Nobody wants to go to a beach where there's excess poop or red tides. And what is the state of Florida doing to crack down on polluters, which to a large extent is big industry and big ag?
So, everybody can hear his question, right? Okay. So, some of those things have been around since before. The red tide has existed for generations, before the turn of the century. But what is a real concern is, I guarantee you can find DNA from Orlando flowing out of the rivers and tributaries in South Florida, both out of Lee County and or Martin County. There is a need for greater expense and infrastructure for water treatment. As Central Florida has blown up and grown, it's also the headquarters of the Everglades. So as you've got to, make those difficult investments in what we need to do in water treatment, I think it's important to have science-backed solutions. But I know that where there is growth, there is also affluent. There are those things that come from development, where retention and other means of engineered ways of trying to treat the groundwater before it becomes part of the natural environment. It's got to be, thoughtfully, seen through. Governor DeSantis has made a strong commitment to that this past legislative session. But it's a challenge because at the same time, we are demanding that those environmental preservations are put in place for our children. It's also at the expense of some taxpayer that's going to see their millage or cost of living go up. So